I help Mormons who are in a mixed faith marriage because of a faith transition. And this is another part of my series on parenting in a mixed faith marriage. So far, we've covered some of the basics, the resources for parenting. We've covered how to deal with a spouse teaching something you don't agree with. Covered what to do with the kids when one spouse goes to church and one spouse stays home. This one, I'm going to talk about some really common parenting worries. Parents love to worry. So we're going to talk about common worries for the transitioning spouse, and then next time I'll talk about common worries for the believing spouse or the non-transitioning spouse. So I see two really common worries with the transitioning, the non-believing, whatever term you prefer, with that spouse. I have seen them, they sound, when you hear them, they sound like they might be opposites, but I have seen the same person have both worries myself. And I will address believing spouses' worries in a separate one, so that will not be neglected. But for purposes of this video, we're just going to talk about the transitioning spouse, common worries to the transitioning spouse. And again, there may be overlap there. These are not mutually exclusive. So let me talk about the two worries. Worry number one, and I've heard this described several ways, but it's basically how to keep the kids safe without the church, how to keep them making good decisions. So it may sound things like, the only reason I didn't go off the deep end was because of the teachings of the church, or the law of chastity protected me and gave me the motivation to make hard decisions. It may sound like, how do I teach values without the church? Or how can they withstand peer pressure without the support of the church? Or how do my kids, how will they have socialization? How will they have friends without the church? This is one, it's sort of a package, right, of worries. How to keep the kids safe, how to keep them healthy socially, mentally, emotionally. Worry number two is, and again, it sounds like it's the opposite, but you can have both of these worries at the exact same time. The second one is, and it may sound like this, I don't want my kids in, as in the church, because they'll be harmed by the shame. Sorry about that. About the shame associated with the teachings. And these other flavors of this exact same worry might be like, I don't want them to be exposed to the shame I felt. I don't want them to grow up thinking they're wrong or not worthy or inadequate. Or I don't want them to try to be somebody they're not in order to fit in. All of that's the same flavor, the same worry, essentially, is I don't want them to be harmed by the teachings of the church. Now let's talk about worry. You might be able to recognize one of those worries as something you experience a lot or something you experience part of the time, but let's talk about what to do with worry. Because guess what? Worries can drive you batty. I know they have driven me batty, right? And you can have both worries at the exact same time, like double the battiness. You really can. And sometimes it can feel like, if you've got them both going, like you have two engines. Sorry, there's a delivery. The dog is announcing it. Like you have two engines pulling in opposite directions. So worry is what I consider to be an indulgent emotion. And said another way, it's a complete waste of time, right? Worry pretends to feel important. Worry pretends to be love and loving. Worry pretends to be necessary, but it is not. Worry creates more worry. Worry creates distraction. Worry ultimately wastes our time and our energy, and we direct that time and that energy towards the worry as opposed to towards directing it towards loving our kids, loving our spouses, building stronger relationships. The bottom line is worry helps no one ever, right? Ever. So when worry comes knocking, any of these worries, and I'm not saying they're not valid, and I'm not saying that there isn't some things to be done or things to be addressed. But when we just worry and we stay in that worry and we ruminate in that worry, helps no one ever. So when worry comes a knocking, it will, I want you to recognize it and see if you can let it go. I try to see it for what it is, something that doesn't help me show up as a better parent or a better spouse. It doesn't help me show up who I actually want to be. So do you need help managing your worries around your mixed faith marriage and how to parent your kids? Do you need to get your worries under control so you can use that energy to really build the relationships and strengthen your relationships? And you need a coach. Reach out to me. I offer a few free calls every month. Free, where we can really dive in to find out what's going on in your mixed faith marriage. Dive in to find out what's going on in your worries, to find out what's going on in your parenting. Reach out to me, message me, and we'll set up a time. You can always go to my website, brookebooth.com, brookeboothcoaching.com, and you'll see a way to schedule there as well. All right, wishing you the best.